In the annals of economic history, patterns emerge that span centuries, revealing how financial systems evolve yet consistently channel resources from the masses to a select few. Consider the recurring cycles of advice dispensed to ordinary workers and families, each era promising stability but often delivering hardship. From the post-World War II stability to the volatile markets of today, these shifts have left generations grappling with eroded savings, burdensome debts, and shattered expectations. To understand this, we must examine the human toll alongside the macroeconomic forces at play, tracing cause and effect through time. Post-war prosperity in the mid-20th century fostered a culture of thrift among everyday people. Governments, recovering from global conflict, promoted banking as a cornerstone of personal security. Workers in factories and offices, many of whom had endured rationing and uncertainty during the war, dutifully deposited portions of their wages into savings accounts. This practice was seen as a bulwark against future instability, allowing families to plan for education, homes, or retirement. Yet, the seeds of disruption were sown in economic policies that prioritized growth over stability. By the 1970s, oil crises and expansive fiscal measures triggered rampant inflation across Western economies. In the United States, annual inflation rates soared into double digits, quietly diminishing the value of held cash. Families who had scrimped to build emergency funds watched as rising prices for groceries, fuel, and housing outpaced their interest earnings. The psychological strain was profound. Retirees, expecting a modest but reliable income, faced the fear of outliving their resources, leading to delayed medical care or reliance on adult children. In Europe, the United Kingdom's experience was particularly acute, with the pound's purchasing power halved over a decade, forcing middle-class households to rethink long-held assumptions about financial prudence. Italy's lira, plagued by repeated devaluations tied to political instability and trade imbalances, turned lifelong savings into near-worthless holdings. This wasn't mere misfortune. It stemmed from systemic designs where central banks printed money to cover deficits, inadvertently, or perhaps deliberately, transferring wealth from savers to debtors and governments. Ordinary traders and small business owners, already pressured by competition, found their margins squeezed further, amplifying a sense of betrayal in institutions once trusted. As inflation's grip loosened in the 1980s, influenced by tighter monetary controls and global trade shifts, the narrative pivoted toward real estate as a hedge against such erosion. This era's leaders, seeking to stimulate recovery, encouraged home ownership through tax incentives and lax lending. For many parents entering the workforce amid deindustrialization, purchasing a house represented not just shelter, but a pathway to equity amid uncertain job markets. Couples juggled mortgages while raising families, viewing property as a tangible asset that could appreciate and provide inheritance. However, this advice overlooked the inherent costs. Ongoing expenses like property taxes, repairs, and interest payments drained household budgets, often leaving little for other investments. The long-term consequences unfolded dramatically in the lead-up to the 2008 global financial crisis, fueled by deregulated banking and speculative lending. In Spain, a construction boom driven by EU integration and low interest rates lured families into overextended loans, only for the bubble to burst amid subprime mortgage contagion from the U.S. home values cratered, trapping millions in negative equity, owing more than their properties were worth, sparking widespread foreclosures and evictions. The human impact was visceral. Workers in the building trades lost jobs en masse, families splintered under financial stress, and emigration surged as young people sought opportunities elsewhere. Ireland mirrored this tragedy, where rapid economic growth masked overbuilding. The crash left ghost estates, unfinished developments symbolizing dashed ambitions, and pushed the nation into austerity. Even in the more stable United Kingdom, those who bought near the 2007 peak endured years of stagnant values, delaying life milestones like starting families or retiring. Leaders faced immense pressure, balancing bailouts for banks with public outrage over inequality, as the crisis exposed how debt-fueled growth disproportionately burdened the vulnerable while insulating financial elites. Shifting to the present, the post-2008 landscape, marked by quantitative easing and near-zero interest rates, has redefined guidance for younger generations. With traditional savings yielding negligible returns and inflation persisting due to supply chain disruptions and pandemic responses, the emphasis turned to active participation in financial markets. Tech-savvy professionals and gig economy workers navigating precarious employment are urged to channel funds into stocks, exchange-traded funds, or emerging assets like cryptocurrencies, This stems from a broader democratization of investing via apps and social platforms, promising empowerment but often masking risks. Yet, the volatility inherent in these markets, driven by algorithmic trading, geopolitical tensions, and herd behavior, has led to repeated setbacks. The 2022 cryptocurrency downturn, precipitated by overleveraged platforms and regulatory scrutiny, erased over $2 trillion in market value, devastating small investors who had staked retirements or education funds on promises of decentralized wealth. Families felt the ripple effects. Sudden portfolio losses forced some to postpone home purchases or dip into emergency reserves, heightening anxiety in an already uncertain world. In Europe, pension systems, long touted as models of security, faltered under similar pressures. The Netherlands' vaunted funds, reliant on diversified but sometimes opaque investments, adjusted benefits downward when returns failed to meet actuarial promises, leaving retirees to confront reduced living standards amid rising costs. This pattern underscores a deeper continuity. Economic policies that favor liquidity and growth inadvertently amplify boom-bust cycles, where ordinary people's ambitions collide with systemic instabilities. Delving deeper into history provides perspective on these mechanisms. Ancient Rome's gradual debasement of the denarius, initiated by emperors to fund military campaigns and public works, eroded citizens' purchasing power while elites consolidated control over land and commodities. In 1920s Weimar Germany, hyperinflation, born from war reparations and printing presses, annihilated savings, fostering social unrest as workers bartered goods and families scavenged for basics, yet industrialists with hard assets rebuilt fortunes. Post-2008, Greece illustrated modern parallels, where austerity measures imposed by international creditors slashed pensions and wages, prioritizing debt repayment over human welfare and deepening generational divides. These episodes reveal core traps: inflation as a stealth tax on the immobile, asset bubbles that lure the optimistic before imploding, and debt structures that bind individuals to perpetual obligations. Over centuries, such dynamics have ensured wealth concentration, with long-term effects including widened inequality and eroded social mobility. Amid these cycles, however, resilience emerges among those who anticipate shifts. Historical victors often position themselves as providers of essentials rather than chasers of trends. During the 19th century California gold rush, prospectors endured grueling labor and frequent ruin, driven by dreams of strikes, but suppliers like Levi Strauss amassed wealth by outfitting them with durable goods, turning necessity into enduring enterprise. In Rome's decline, landowners who managed productive estates weathered currency devaluation, their yields sustaining influence across generations. The Great Depression of the 1930s crushed speculators in equities, yet operators of vital services, such as food production, utilities, or transportation, navigated downturns by fulfilling unwavering demand, emerging with strengthened positions. This insight redirects focus. True security lies in cultivating assets that generate ongoing value, like specialized skills immune to devaluation, enterprises meeting core needs, or income-producing holdings resilient to market whims. Such approaches demand patience and foresight, countering the allure of quick gains but offering sustainable freedom. Reflecting on these generational experiences illuminates a timeless truth. Earlier cohorts trusted banks only to face inflation's erosion. Mid-generations embraced home ownership amid bubbles that burst, and today's participants navigate speculative markets prone to abrupt corrections. The common thread is a system engineered for extraction, where policies and promotions steer the majority toward vulnerability. Recognizing this empowers divergence. Prioritize enduring value over ephemeral promises. Own what produces rather than what speculates. By doing so, individuals can transcend the cycle, preserving resources and autonomy for future lineages. For more deep, carefully researched stories from economic history, subscribe to our channel, Einstein of Economy.